ESPN is the one to see. Call 387-2323.
LA filing number 16-7970.
WNXX Jackson, KNXX Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers. LA 21-12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boy, does it smell good.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
That's good.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz at Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. That means we're brought to you by Rouse's Markets, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Got Jacob Beck and Jordan Kitchens back there on the ones and twos, and fired up you're here with us. We're working towards the weekend here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Luke Johnson, as usual, with us in 15 minutes to talk about the Saints. They've got a lot of injury issues to talk about, and we will talk about all of them with Luke Johnson coming up in 15 minutes. I've got some matchups to look at between LSU and South Alabama. I don't believe LSU should have any issue at all with South Alabama. I don't care that they scored 87 points a couple of weeks ago. I don't care that they blew Appalachian State out. LSU should have their way with South Alabama. But I do have a couple of things that I want to talk about with what South Alabama tries to do and what LSU needs to do on Saturday night. So we'll talk about a little bit of that. Dennis Allen met with the media yesterday. Talk about that in the second hour. Chris Blair's with us at 2:15. And at 2:30, we'll go over some LSU basketball. Matt McMahon and his staff let us in to watch a little bit of practice yesterday. I wrote a report up for LouisianaSports.net, but you can also hang around until 2:30 to hear a little bit of that as we saw a little bit of action on the hardwood yesterday. We've done this segment a couple of times, and it hasn't happened yet. But we do know at some point Chris Hilton is going to return to this LSU football offense. That's going to happen eventually. Brian Kelly said earlier this week he believes it will be Saturday. I believe it will be Saturday. And you all know, if you pay attention at all to LSU football, what Chris Hilton brings to LSU's offense. You're all aware of this. He's been on campus for 4 years. You saw him in recruiting. He's a local product from right here in the Baton Rouge area. You've seen him in spurts on the field, and you heard about what he was doing in fall camp. You know what Chris Hilton brings to the LSU offense. It's speed. He's the fastest wide receiver they've got. That's not news. And the fact that he would bring an incredible deep threat to this LSU offense is also not news. But there are some statistics that I dug around with today and came up with that really do paint the picture that Hilton could be or could help become the final piece to this LSU passing game, which has been excellent through 4 weeks. I mean, you look at statistics, LSU is second in the country in completed passes. That's incredibly efficient. They're 13th in the country in passing yards per game. And when you realize that there are a lot of teams that have played absolute patsies all year, and there are a lot of teams that run an air raid style offense and whatnot, the fact that LSU ranks in the top 15 in passing offense is very, very good at this point, being that you've played UCLA, USC, and South Carolina. That's a real schedule. Say what you will about South Carolina standing in the SEC or how good UCLA is. They're not. But those are 3 functional football teams, and you're 13th in the country in passing yards per game. You're 5th in the country in passing touchdowns to this point. And you've been very diverse in what you're trying to do. 5 players on this team have caught 10 passes or more. Back on Saturday against UCLA, in a game that you did win by 17 points, but I wouldn't suggest was a complete blowout where you're just chunking the rest of the guys in there and throwing it around and getting everybody involved. You had 9 guys make a catch in that game. So when you look at LSU, statistically speaking, in the passing game, you're talking about a team that completes a ton of passes for a ton of yards, to a lot of people, for a lot of touchdowns. Like, that's as good as you can be. But there's one piece that they're not quite unlocking, and it's the big plays. They're 60th in the country in yards per attempt. Not yards per completion, yards per attempt. But you realize that they're really, really good in terms of their completion percentage. Nussmeier's completing about 70%. So it's not that they're throwing a bunch of incompletions, so they're inefficient in that way. they are completing a lot of passes. They're just around the line of scrimmage a lot. They're in the intermediate part of the field. LSU's 12th in the country in completion percentage, as I mentioned there. But they're still gaining yards. They're just not creating the chunk plays. You talk about LSU's rank in the SEC. They're second in terms of pass plays or of 10 or more yards. They're second in the conference, 10 or more yard pass plays. They're also one of 5 teams in the league that does not have a 50-plus yard pass play. They have not busted one for a huge gain in a month. And Chris Hilton's really good at that. And you look at what Kyron Lacey has become. He's a big physical body. Remember that first drive against USC, just a ton of 8, 12, 14-yard catches, third down catches. He can go up and get you vertically as well. He's got long arms and a big catch radius. You look at Aaron Anderson and the success that he's had. A lot of it's been around the line of scrimmage in the screen game. He did stretch the field twice against South Carolina for catches of 20, 25 yards, and that was really good to see. But you know what his strengths are. Xavier Thomas. His touchdown catch in the game against UCLA was on that pop pass. That's a behind the line of scrimmage, basically a handoff that you're using his speed to get to the edge. And he outran a UCLA defender that was really in position, but Xavier Thomas just outran him. And LSU's going to work that screen game, and they're going to work Kyron Lacey in the intermediate. And Mason Taylor last week became the all-time leader at LSU in catches and yards by a tight end. He's awesome at working the intermediate game. He's not going to stretch the field horizontally. That would be vertically. He's not going to stretch the field vertically. Chris Hilton does. Last year, he averaged 17 yards per catch. Now, he wasn't a focal point of last year, but he averaged 17 yards per catch. He made a 42-yard catch in the shootout against Ole Miss. And you'll all remember this. This is with Garrett Nussmeier at the helm. LSU backed up in their own territory late in the game, trailing against Wisconsin, needing a touchdown in the ReliaQuest Bowl. Boom. 43 yards down the left sideline. Nussmeier hits a streaking Chris Hilton to set up 2 plays later the Brian Thomas touchdown catch that won it. Chris Hilton basically got his career kick-started with the 81-yard touchdown catch from John Trey Kirkland in the Texas Bowl. Now, we all know how that game went. It was a complete blowout. LSU had a wide receiver playing quarterback. And at that point, I don't know how much Kansas State was trying or not. They were up by a bajillion. It was the last play of the game. But Chris Hilton ran by everybody, and John Shea Kirkland threw it up in the air, and he made the catch and ran it in for an 81-yard touchdown. Speed is a powerful thing. And if you're an opposing coach and you're game planning for LSU, you are absolutely going to want to come up close to the line of scrimmage to try to take away Kyron Lacey and Mason Taylor work in that intermediate. You're going to want to get up close enough to make a tackle on a screen play to Aaron Anderson or to Xavier Thomas. And we haven't talked about Kyle Parker yet in this segment, but he's only been there for a game and a half. But he's the technician, a route runner. He's going to win in the intermediate, although he did make the big play for a touchdown against UCLA. That's not going to be what he does most of the time. But if you're going to try to come up and take all that away, you better look at number 3, which is what Chris Hilton's going to wear this year. Y'all haven't seen that yet. I've seen it at practice, but he's in 3 now. You're going to want to look at him because if you bring everybody up, he can go right by you. He is way fast. And if you want to take his speed away, you may have to either back up off of him or back everybody up in order to take that away, and that's when LSU can feast in the intermediate. We're waiting on LSU's running game to start creating a push and doing a little bit more, and I still hold out hope that that can happen. But the passing game has been really good. This is the missing piece. And I'll tell you this. To suggest that Chris Hilton is only a vertical threat that can only just run by guys and make 45-yard catches is incorrect. We saw him in camp really, really do a nice job of route running, of creating separation, of being strong and making contested catches. Like, he did a good job in camp in every aspect of being a wide receiver, and that's the maturation. He showed up here as the highest-ranked wide receiver in a class that included Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. Those guys are first-round picks. He's still here. It's because he's dealt with an injury 2 of his 3.5 years here. But he can really do a lot of things for this LSU offense, and it's not like they have to have him to produce. It's just the final piece to this puzzle, and I'm really excited to see it in this game, and then you got a bye week to get him integrated once again, and then see what he can do against Ole Miss. Because guess what? I think you're all aware of this too. When Ole Miss comes to town, LSU ain't winning that game 20-17. Not going to happen. To win that game against Ole Miss, LSU's going to have to score 35 points. And they can, but you're going to have to be really good in your strength, which is the passing game, and Hilton can help with that. I really think this could be a huge boon to LSU's offense because it adds something they don't right now possess in spades. Sure, Kyron Lacey can run. Yes, Aaron Anderson can run. Kyle Parker just made a catch down the field in the game against UCLA. It's not that they cannot stretch the field at all. Hilton's the best they've got at doing that. And I'm pumped up to integrate him into that, and you become a really diverse passing game that I believe will give LSU a shot every single Saturday. I wouldn't love LSU in Athens right now. I wouldn't love LSU in Tuscaloosa right now. I wouldn't love LSU in Austin right now. I wouldn't love it if LSU had to go to Columbus, Ohio to play. None of those games are on the schedule. The best teams LSU is going to play are coming to Tiger Stadium. And I give LSU a real chance in those games. But to win those games, they're going to have to throw it exceptionally well because that's the strength of their team, and that's what's going to allow them to keep up with opposing offenses that will likely score some points on this defense. Chris Hilton makes you better at that. I'm excited to see it. If you want to read about it, you can check it out at louisianasports.net. I put a story up. It's got all these statistics kind of laid out right there for you. I'm excited to see what he can do coming up this Saturday inside Tiger Stadium. We'll step aside when we come back. Luke Johnson talking Saints. I got some injuries to deal with as they head to Atlanta to play the Atlanta Falcons. We'll talk about that coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Look, if you're a business owner, you understand you've got to have group and employee benefits. It's just part of the deal. That's what makes you be able to hire a wonderful staff, keep your staff together, keep your staff happy. You've got to have great employee benefits and insurance. And Highland Insurance Group can help you out with that. Every single day, I tell you about their ability in the property and casualty space, but they can also help you out with group and employee benefits. If you're not sure that you've got the best in benefits, Highland Insurance Group has a number of markets they can approach to make sure that you're in the right hands. Also, property and casualty, very, very important. You understand that there's a hurricane in the Gulf right now, another hurricane that could be right there behind it. We're hoping we're not affected by it, but if you are, you want to have the right insurance, and Highland Insurance Group can help you out with that. This is another piece that I tell you every day when I talk about Jonathan Carbo and his team at Highland Insurance Group right here in Baton Rouge. They're not a magic bullet. They're not going to be able to just magically save you 20% on that property and casualty. That's just not realistic in this insurance market. It's been really, really bad for a number of years. But they can make sure that your coverage is correct. And that's the peace of mind you need to help run your business. That's why you need to call the Highland Insurance Group. They're online at HighlandIG.com, right here in Baton Rouge. Jonathan Carver's team, just about a decade in this market. Give them a call for your group and employee benefits as well as your property and casualty. It's Highland Insurance Group. Check them out online, HighlandIG.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has back-to-school savings like $16,000 off 25 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $16,000 off. All new Bayou vehicles come with a complimentary extended warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
It's an everyday thing here. We work horses in the mornings and we work on the property during the day, and without these John Deere tractors, it'd almost be impossible to keep up with the place. I've dealt with some of the other colors and stuff, and I never really got the response back that I get from John Deere, We really enjoy dealing with Sunshine. They're good people. They always check on us and make sure our equipment's running, and we love them. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show presented by Rouse's Markets. Heading out to tailgate for the Tigers. You're watching the Saints on Sunday. Need your tailgate supplies or your home watch party supplies. Rouse is always a fantastic option. Rouse's, this feels like home.
Why did you just chuckle and say Scheffler before we got back from the
Well, you know
break?
Scheffler and Tom Kim are buddies.
Yeah.
They're playing against each other in the President's Cup. Apparently Tom Kim made a big birdie, and Scheffler had about a 25-footer to tie him, and he made it, and then he screamed at him, "What was that?" And got a little testy, it looked like. So I kind of like that. A little President's Cup drama there. Sam Burton's playing in the President's Cup, LSU representative. He is on the course today. I'm not sure who he's playing with, but I do know that he is in one of the groups because I know the two guys that are sitting out. He's not one of them. So maybe a little golf later on in the show. But let's talk some Saints. Luke Johnson from The Advocate joins us every single Thursday to talk black and gold as they get ready for Atlanta coming up this Sunday. Luke, how are we doing?
I'm doing good, man. And if I could pick any one person on planet Earth to say I like that, a little President's Cup drama, it would be you.
I love the President's Cup. I'm excited to watch it. I'm maybe more excited to watch that USA than South Alabama, who's coming on here on Saturday, but we'll leave that right there where it is. All right, what was your biggest takeaway from the Saints' loss on Sunday? The offense never got rolling.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was really just the fact that they couldn't get their run game going, and that it really wasn't even that they couldn't get it going; it's that they didn't make any adjustments. It was in that 6-1 front or 5-1 front. The Saints played two games where they really killed people, where they were getting them in their base defense, and it was great. But when you look at this Philly run defense that I thought was going to be kind of an easy test for them this week because of how much they struggled the first few weeks of the season. They were struggling in their nickel defense. And once they got into base, it was like everything was solid for them. Everything was gold. And, I'm a little concerned just on the Saints' behalf that they didn't recognize that mid-game and try to go for something else. They just kind of kept going with what wasn't working. Hopefully, Clint Kubiak can kind of come up with some solutions mid-game in the future because I think he kind of failed his first test there.
Obviously, Jalen Carter's a heck of a player on the interior, and the Saints had injuries to deal with on the offensive front. McCoy going out on the third snap. Is what you saw on Sunday replicable by a lot of teams in the NFL? Was it an issue with the Saints on the front because they had to move some pieces around? I mean, what is the issue from Sunday going to continue? Is I guess my question.
I think it's not going to be as good as it was the first 2 weeks, right? I don't think anybody was anticipating they're going to go out there and score 40 points a game every week and be undefeated by the end of the regular season, right? like Eric McCoy is a really important player, and he's important not only in the run game because of his athleticism and his intelligence there, but he's important in the pass game too because he sets up protections. So it's going to be a loss for them no matter what, without him being on the field for half the regular season or whatever it ends up being. But I don't think you're going to see a lot of teams try to go out and put that front out there that the Eagles are running, because a lot of teams don't have Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. Those are two stud players, even if they don't always play like it on a week-to-week basis. We saw it when Jalen Carter turned it on; he was unstoppable.
Yeah.
So I just. And, for the Eagles and Vic Fangio in particular, that's just kind of in their DNA. That's something they regularly do when they're in their base defense. I just don't think that we're going to see a ton of teams just like deploy that straight up against the Saints. And I think, if I'm the Saints and you go through that whole week where you can't get anything going against that front in particular, if you see it again, you're going to have some solutions for it. And I think it just with the benefit of watching the film and playing it all back over, they'll have some counters ready if other teams do try that.
Let's talk about the McCoy injury. They got to deal with this for 2 months, basically. So we saw on Sunday they put Lucas Patrick inside, put Udo in there. Do you expect to see more of that? Is Ruiz an option? What do we expect to see on the interior now that McCoy's gone for 2 months?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. I don't think I actually have an answer for you. Ruiz is dealing with a knee injury, so he hasn't been at practice. I think it'd be tough to put him in at center right now. I think it would have been tough regardless. But I don't know if they just go right back to what they did last week either. Really, you're doing you're limiting yourself at two positions that way, right? Because Patrick isn't going to be nearly as good as McCoy at center, and then whoever's going in at left guard isn't going to be as good as Patrick there. So, I think it's a possibility that Shane Lemieux, who they signed from the practice squad, is their starting center, so they can only have drop off at one position instead of two. If Ruiz can't go this week, maybe they do keep Udo in there left guard. But if Ruiz is able to go, maybe it's Landon Young. He was the one who stepped in for Patrick in week 1, and really because he missed all of last week's practice with a foot injury, he's really only kind of available on an emergency basis last week. So if all things were equal, maybe it would have been Young who went in there instead of Udo. I don't know. I just think there's potential for this to kind of go a lot of different ways as this kind of progresses without Eric McCoy in the lineup.
Let's talk about the other offensive injuries. Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara, Cesar Ruiz. How do you feel about those three guys?
In order of good to bad, I'll go. I feel good about Taysom Hill. I think if I remember correctly, he was a full participant in practice yesterday, and Dennis Allen's already said that he's good to go. So he will play against Atlanta, barring a big setback for him. Alvin Kamara, I'm more worried about, but I do think that some of that is look, he's very well dealing with a hip and rib injuries, right? But he also carried the ball 29 times or 26 times with 3 catches. I think part of this might just be them wanting to get a little bit of a rest for him after carrying such a huge workload this week. I think that's smart for a 29-year-old running back, but we'll see. I think there's definitely a chance that he has to miss time, but the fact that they didn't try out any running backs, didn't sign any running backs this week is kind of a signal to me that maybe it's okay with him. With Ruiz, I'm not feeling totally great about. I just think there's a possibility he misses time with his injury.
All right, well, let's stay on offense then. If they don't have Ruiz and you're talking about dealing with Grady Jarrett and David Onyemata, that's how concerned are you with that interior offensive line, especially considering that the outside is Trevor Penning and a rookie?
Yeah, very. Those are that's their only 2 returning starters from last year, right? And really, when you're looking at this offensive line, it's the 2 guys you can count on. Even if Ruiz is a little bit more up and down than McCoy is, he's still a good player. He's still a player who's making $11, $12 million a year, and I think he's playing kind of up to that level. So if you don't have those two guys, it's going to make things really tough. But I do think that just considering the way this offensive line performed through 2 games, considering just some of the history of this Shanahan-style offense and the way they coach their offensive line and the way they get those guys on the move, I think you can hide it a little bit, even though it's definitely a downgrade player-wise, talent-wise. I think you can scheme around it a little bit. They just can't get they have to be able to run the ball, right? I think that's still possible when you're putting new guys in the lineup along the offensive line. But if they can't, then you're asking those guys to hold up in pass protection. I think then it's a different story. And I think that's why the offense struggled so much last week. It wasn't necessarily even because the running game wasn't getting the explosives. It was that they were getting stuffed on first and second down, and they were putting the quarterback in bad situations on third down, in pass rushing situations. Well, look, I went back and looked at it. Derek Carr was pressured on 11 of 26 dropbacks, and he went 4 for 10 for 22 yards, but 8 passer rating when he was pressured. That's not good. And that's historically where Derek Carr has really struggled, is when he's got pressure in his face. And the way to mitigate that is to run the football. And it's why the Saints were so successful and why Derek Carr looked so good those first 2 weeks, is because this entire offensive attack is based on running the football. So they got to be able to get guys in there who can do that, and I think the rest of the offense will be fine if they can.
Chatting with Luke Johnson, covers the Saints for The Advocate, @ByLukeJohnson on Twitter for all your Saints needs. All right, let's go to the defense. It's not hyperbole to call Demario Davis as durable a player as there's been in the entire NFL over the last 6 or 7 years. Is there a concern he won't play on Sunday?
Definitely a concern. And I think it's just, especially when you're talking about hamstrings, it's kind of an unpredictable thing, right? For some guys, they're able to go on it and play on it, and some guys aren't. It's something that can linger if you try to push it too hard. So, by the same token, though, he could go out and not practice this entire week, and the Saints could still put him out there on Sunday. He's that type of player where he's so experienced, he's so smart that he can take mental reps and be okay for game day. It's not ideal, but it's workable. So I don't know. I'm just going to be kind of keeping a very close eye on that one. This is a matchup in particular where you want him on the field with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. This rushing attack is very, very good. And then you obviously got Kyle Pitts, who's a very talented tight end, even if he's not super productive. DeMario plays a big role in all that stuff. So they've got better depth than they have had in the past at linebacker. I think Willie Gay gives them a solid number 2 next to Pete Werner if he has to start. But you're talking about Demario Davis, who's still one of the best linebackers in the league. That's a big drop-off if he's not able to go.
No question. Look, I think it would be a stretch to think the Saints, especially with the injuries up front, are going to go out there and light up the scoreboard in Atlanta. I was listening to T-Bob this morning, and his contention was the defense is going to have to bear down and really, really limit this Atlanta offense to keep the Saints in this and win a close one that's fairly low scoring. I concur with that. Do you?
I do. But then again, I thought the Saints-Eagles game last week was going to be I think I had 31-27 as my score prediction. So, obviously, we don't know what the hell we're talking about ever. But just considering everything that's going on, considering the nature of this kind of rivalry, and some of the new pieces on both sides of the ball, both teams, right? Atlanta's got a new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new offensive and defensive play caller. The Saints have a new offensive play caller. New players are being thrown in the mix. I think you're going to get a little bit less of the I know that you know what I know sort of thing that you get with the division rivals sometimes. And I think that could lead to a little bit more scoring in this one. But then again, it's hard to just say that's going to be the case, considering what the Saints have lost with the type of games the Falcons have played so far this year. I think the Falcons' defense is ahead of their offense at this point. So I'm leaning toward a lower scoring game, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's just completely subverts our expectations.
Enjoy the ATL. We'll talk next week. Thanks, Luke.
Thanks, buddy. Talk to you later.
Luke Johnson with The Advocate at by Luke Johnson on Twitter is with us every single Thursday. We certainly do appreciate it. Big game, obviously. They're all big in the NFL, but this is a big one for the Saints. If you want to position yourself in the right spot early on in the division, it'd be great to go get one on the road against Atlanta. But these injuries are piling up, and they are significant. So we'll get an attendance report from practice here coming up in the next 20-25 minutes. In the second hour, we'll kind of alert you to how that looks, and we'll hear some sound from Dennis Allen as well. So Saints and Falcons, noon on Fox, coming up on Sunday. All right, we'll transition back to LSU football when we come back. I want to talk a little bit about some matchups to watch with South Alabama. Once again, I am not going to try to convince you that LSU is in a ton of trouble, but I do believe there are some things to draw from. When Nichols comes to town, I don't really care. FCS football is a different world. South Alabama has some functional players, has some creative schemes. I think LSU needs to do some things and execute some things on Saturday. I'll tell you about those coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Evolve Physical Therapy. EvolvePT.com is the website. If you're in pain and you're looking to get back to being your active self, there's no other place to go. Evolve Physical Therapy in Sports. Robbie Bolton's been doing this for almost 2 decades, and he can help you. I'm talking to you whether you're a 9-year-old youth athlete or a 68-year-old person who's trying to get back on the golf course. Either way, if you're dealing with pain and want to get back to being your active self, Evolve Physical Therapy in Sports is your stop. They are so hands-on. From the second you walk in to Evolve Physical Therapy in Sports to the second you leave, you're going to have one of their expert physical therapists working with you, hands-on. You can do soft tissue manipulation, do the cupping, dry needling, scraping. They've got isokinetic testing to test how your muscles and your body are responding to the rehabilitation. All of that is available at Evolve Physical Therapy in Sports. This is not some situation where they hand you a Word document with 6 stretches on it and say, hey, we'll see you next week. That's not rehab. This is rehab at Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. They're on Starring near Highland Road. You can find them near Sammy's Grill. If you're here in the Baton Rouge area, they would welcome you. Come on in and make sure that you're getting back to being your active self. It's Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. Check them out online at evolvept.com, evolvept.com.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
There's nothing chill about a hot, sweaty line. Unless you add Mountain Cold Refreshment. Coors Light. Choose chill.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps are held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. a family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Brack, your #1 park system in the nation.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
All right, thanks to Luke Johnson for giving us a few minutes here as he does every single Thursday. Chris Blair coming up in about 30 minutes. Nope, that's wrong. 40 minutes from right now. My math is it's just not good. Just not good at all.
Nope, it's bad.
You should see you've heard many times when I try to count back from kickoff to the pregame show
Yeah, you can't do that.
and noon gets involved, it's just an absolute disaster. It's just, I'm just awful at it. It's just is what it is. Some people had their strengths, had their weaknesses. I can't count. That's a weakness of mine. So you just got to work with it. That's just all there is to it. All right, LSU and South Alabama coming up on Saturday night in Tiger Stadium. I am, as I said, not going to convince you that South Alabama is a threat to LSU. I don't believe South Alabama is a threat to LSU to win the game. I do think there are some aspects of this game where I can pick and draw from. As I mentioned in the last segment, like when Nichols comes to town, you're dealing with 285-pound offensive linemen. You're dealing with non-scholarship FCS players. It's just not – it's not a fair fight. And not suggesting that South Alabama and LSU is a completely fair fight. They're different weight classes. But it's one that I think LSU can draw some things from. And so I have 3 matchups that I've pointed out over at LouisianaSports.net, and I've kind of dove into the statistics, and I've watched some of South Alabama to come up with it, and I think there's some things to take a peek at. The first is South Alabama's offensive backfield, their quarterback and their running back against LSU's front 7. That's really generic. Usually you try to do one-on-one or a specific position group, but this is really just a matter of LSU playing assignment football against these two guys who are good in South Alabama's backfield. Gio Lopez is their quarterback, and their running back, whose name you've probably heard a few times by this point because it's humorous, Fluff Bothwell. Those two guys have really done a good job for South Alabama this year. Major Applewhite's got them in a spread offense, a lot of read option concepts, and they're creative in the running game. Last week, Bothwell ran for 116 yards, and Lopez ran for 105 against Appalachian State. Neither of these two guys are really fast. Bothwell is like 5'10", 220, 225. He's a freshman. He's a bruiser. And Lopez doesn't look like a good runner. He's kind of thick, and he isn't really fast, but they're creative, and they create some space. And if you get out of position, they will block it, and Lopez can run a little bit. And as I mentioned, he went over 100 yards last week. So Harold Perkins is out. You've got a new linebacking core. They're either going to go with the 2 Weeks brothers and Greg Penn, or they're going to go with Whit Weeks and Greg Penn and Major Burns at the star. Either way, you've taken one of your guys who's been a constant for you. No matter his production, he's been a constant for you, and he's coming off the field. Those linebackers need to be in the right place. South Alabama is going to run the ball. Against Appalachian State last week, they ran the ball 43 times for 320 yards. Now, App State stinks on defense. Clemson scored a bajillion on them, and so did South Alabama. But still, there's a commitment to the running game, and you've got to play assignment football. And those assignments hold true whether you're playing Ole Miss or Oklahoma or South Alabama. I don't want to see LSU out of position and Fluff Bothwell running down the hash for 25 yards. I don't want to see Gio Lopez chug-a-lugging off left end like he did against Appalachian State for a 35-yard touchdown. Be in the right place and stop these two guys. They're good enough to beat you if you're in the wrong place. LSU needs to be in the right place. The other piece to this is we know LSU's pass rush is good against this level of competition. Remains to be seen if they cook Caden Proctor in Alabama when that time comes. But when they play these average to below average teams, they've rushed the passer really well. They got after South Carolina, they got after UCLA, and they're going to get after South Alabama when they get into passing situations. But you got to get Lopez on the ground. He's savvy back there, man. I'm watching these highlights. He's stepping up. His eyes are down the field. He's stepping up and rolling out, extending plays. He's spinning out and keeping his eyes downfield. Like he's a savvy dude, and LSU needs to rattle him a little bit. And you need to rush the passer. You need to get to him. So all of this is on LSU's front seven to make plays moving forward against this major Applewhite offense at South Alabama. Now I'll take the cliche and go to the rest of the defense with the LSU secondary because the defense is the biggest deal. But I'm really focusing on one guy here for South Alabama. It's Jamal Pritchett. Pritchett is clearly the number one for South Alabama. He's a senior. He's got 26 catches on the year. If you take their second leading receiver and third leading receiver, you combine those two to get to 26 catches per year. So he's got as many catches as second and third on the team combined. He's a little guy. He's 5'8". He's shifty. He'll make you miss. And Ashton Stamps and J.K. Johnson, if those are the two guys LSU sends out there, maybe Sage Ryan goes down. I'm not sure. I don't expect Zay Alexander to play. We'll find out more about that at Brian Kelly's press conference later today. But Pritchett is their go-to guy, and he's scored a touchdown in every game thus far for the Jaguars. He's really elusive. He's got 196 yards worth of punt return yardage the last 2 weeks. That tells you what you need to know. Now, I'm guessing, just a guess out of thin air, that Northwestern State's punt coverage unit's not great. Safe assumption? Okay. But still, you return a ton of punt return yardage, you're probably a pretty good athlete, and this guy has. We know what's coming down the pike. Lane Kiffin, Jackson Dart, Trey Harris, that whole Ole Miss crew is going to put some pressure on LSU. Because you can cover Jamal Pritchett doesn't mean you can cover Trey Harris, doesn't mean you can cover those guys at Alabama. But if you can't cover Jamal Pritchett, you probably can't cover those guys down the road. So I'm looking at this matchup, Jamal Pritchett, the guy that South Alabama is going to try to force the ball to, cover him, tackle him. Maybe they throw some quick hitter stuff that you can't necessarily break up. Go tackle him. No big plays. That's what you're trying to eliminate if you're LSU. No big plays. And they're going to try to get the ball to Pritchett early and often. LSU's got to cover him. So that's the second matchup I'm looking at. The third one here is LSU's interior offensive line against the middle linebacker at South Alabama, Blaine Myrick. Myrick, to this point, has really been the man in the middle for South Alabama. He's racked up a ton of tackles, 34 of them. That's 13 better than second place. He kind of cleans up everything for them in the middle. LSU's got to run the ball eventually, and this is a good time to start. And the interior offensive line is going to have to handle their assignments and climb to the second level and cut off Myrick, who makes most of the plays in the middle for South Alabama, so that these running backs can find some seams and create some yardage. They've got to find a way to run the ball. We've talked about men in the box. We've talked about their throwing more because of that, and that's all well and good. But you gotta run the ball at some point. And Myrick's the guy that LSU is going to have to find and block because he's making a lot of tackles. So I'm looking for the running game. I'm looking for LSU to create some space. I don't care if it's Durham. I don't care if it's Williams. I don't care if it's Jackson. I don't care if it's Johnson. Whoever's in there, find some room, and let's find a way to run the football between the tackles. I'm all good with Caden Durham making guys miss, bouncing things to the outside, running for 98 yards against South Carolina. That's great. But I want some more traditional and schematically sound runs that are blocked up well, that get the running backs moving with a head of steam into the second level. Because you do that, you allow LSU's athletes to take over. And when they can take over, they're pretty good. I know Caden Durham's good. I know there are people that think Caleb Jackson looks heavy and he's not as fast. I drop that pin every day. That wasn't even the top. That was the whole pin. However, let's get back to it. Caleb Jackson looks good to me. He looks fast. He looks strong. He looks like he has nowhere to run. Block them up and create some lanes so that LSU can run the football. So those are my three matchups to watch on Saturday night. It's South Alabama's backfield, their quarterback and their running back, Gio Lopez and Fluff Bothwell against LSU's front seven, assignment sound football. Jamal Pritchett, do everything wide receiver for them. Ashton Stamps, J.K. Johnson and company, y'all go tackle him, go cover him. And LSU's interior offensive line, handle your assignments, handle your double teams, climb to the next level, create some lanes so that LSU can run the football in this game. I think LSU can accomplish all three of these things. Just a matter of want to and get it done, because you understand that you're fighting complacency this week. You understand on the other side of this, you got a short week of practice, and everybody can go home next weekend. That's exciting for young people. You got to fight that complacency, lock it in for 4 hours, get this stuff done, then you get to the bye week, and then the real stuff starts. Those are my thoughts. If you want to check it out, you can at louisianasports.net. Louisianasports.net. Also got some Saints information coming pretty quickly here. Saints attendance report for practice, injury report, some thoughts from Dennis Allen as well. So lots of stuff popping up at louisianasports.net this afternoon. Got a lot to do in hour number 2 of today's show. We got to get to Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers. Got to get to some thoughts from LSU basketball practice yesterday. Of course, Dennis Allen met with the media yesterday as well, so we'll have some sound from DA there. When we come back, best win and worst loss in the NFL and college football. Joe Burrows is involved here. That's for sure. We'll talk about that next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services, boudreauxelectrical.com. You're never going to hear me talk about VIP memberships with Boudreaux's Electrical. Doesn't mean you can't get quality customer service at Boudreaux's Electrical. Far from it. You do. But you don't have to pay more for it. They're a certified Generac dealer. They're a premier Generac generator dealer. That means they're in the top 3% nationwide. When they do an installation, they send a full-time Boudreaux's Electrical employee to do it. And when they do it, they're going to do it with the highest quality tubing, wiring, and they're going to do most of that installation underground. The generator is fantastic, but you don't want it to be an eyesore outside your house. A lot of people take pride in what their house looks like day to day. You don't want a big honking generator that just takes away from the beauty of your home. They're going to make sure they do that installation underground for the most part, and they're going to make sure that it looks discreet, it's functional, but it also is aesthetically pleasing. It's just one of the things they do for you at Boudreaux's Electrical. Every single generator that you get from them comes with a 7 to 10-year warranty, depending on the kind of generator that you purchase from Boudreaux's Electrical. Give yourself the peace of mind to know that power is not going to go out at your home or at your place of work. They can handle commercial orders as well. It's Boudreaux's Electrical. Check them out online, boudreauxelectrical.com.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has back-to-school savings like $16,000 off 25 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $16,000 off. All new Bayou vehicles come with a complimentary extended warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
The best.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Love our friends over at Rouse's. Locations all over the place in South Louisiana, all the way over to Gulf Shores, Alabama. If you're tailgating for LSU and South Alabama, getting a group together to watch the Saints and Falcons on Sunday, no better spot to stop in than Rouse's. They got all your wine and spirits. They got all your beer and your seltzers. They got tons of ice as well. They got party trays of meat pies and sandwiches and fruit. Everything you need for the tailgate, they've got there at Rouse's Markets. As I said, locations all over the place in South Louisiana. There's always one nearest you. My preference, the one close to our home, is the one Burbank and Lee. Also a great location there on Florida Boulevard as well. So get on by Rouse's for your weekend and game day shopping. Rouse's, this feels like home. All right, best win and worst loss on the board in college football and the National Football League. I think, Beck, and I'll get your opinion on this, the best win in college football is actually not Georgia going on the road to Bama. It would be Bama beating Georgia at home. This is Kalen DeBoer's first chance at a real signature win. Nice job up in Madison, but this is the big leagues here to beat Georgia. And if Alabama could do that at home, I think that'd be the best win on the board in college football.
I'd agree. I think Kalen DeBoer is going to need to get a defining win here. If he can get this win over Georgia, that is going to basically quiet all the people who think that Kalen DeBoer could not come in here and be successful at Alabama, and especially in his first year. And everyone expected them to be down after losing, Nick Saban. But if he can go in and if they can get that win over Georgia, I would agree, man.
If they do that, it's very difficult to find a way they don't make the playoff.
Yeah, exactly.
If they beat Georgia at home, it's hard. They go to Wisconsin and win, beat Georgia at home. It's hard to find a path for them not to make the playoff. They could lose in Tiger Stadium and lose to Tennessee, beat Auburn, and they're still going to get in at 10-2, I think. So I think this is the biggest win on the board, Alabama over Georgia. Worst loss may surprise you a little bit based on the fact that it's Boise against what was a Power 5 team, no longer a Power 5 team because it's not Power 5 and the Pac-12 is not power anymore. But Boise is at home for Washington State this week. They lost to Oregon in a competitive game. And so they're still probably a lot of people's favorite to get that last G5 spot in the playoff. But you can't lose to Washington State at home as a touchdown favorite. Boise's a touchdown favorite in this game against Wazoo in Boise. That would be the worst loss because they're out, I think, of the college football playoff with a second loss if they lose to Washington State. So that's my worst loss on the board in college football. Best win in the NFL. I realize that the Bills are undefeated, and I realize that the Ravens are 1-2. But we've all watched the Ravens. They were an eyelash away from winning in Kansas City, and they beat the brakes off of Dallas for 3 quarters last week. They're good, and they're 1-2, and the Bills have a chance to go to Baltimore, make that team 1-3, and go to 4-0 themselves. I think Buffalo going to Baltimore and winning that game would be the best win on the board in the NFL. And the worst loss, Beck, you said it last week. Isn't that just whoever plays the Panthers every week? Well, whoever played the Panthers last week lost that game.
They did.
So that could have been the worst loss. But in fact, I think the worst loss on the board was the Bengals losing to Jaden Daniels in Washington. And if the Bengals lose this week at Carolina, I'm not going to say you put a fork in them, but you can get it out of the drawer.
Yeah, I think you got to put a fork in them at that point. I mean, you start the season like that.
They would have to go 9-4 the rest of the way.
Yeah, to even have a chance.
Even have a chance.
That's
probably 10-3.
Yeah, that's some real dire straits there for the Bengals if they do that.
So I think the worst loss on the board. It's on the road, but but with the Bengals at the Panthers. Best win in college football this weekend, Bama over Georgia in Tuscaloosa. Worst loss, Boise State at home against Washington State. Best win on the board in the NFL, Bills at the Ravens. Worst loss in the NFL, Joe B and the Bengals losing at the Panthers. Which of those is the most likely to happen?
I think Alabama. I don't
most likely to beat Georgia.
So yeah, I don't think the Bengals, while they haven't played great. They played well in that Commanders game. The defense just didn't show up. I don't think Andy Dalton's going to go out there and put 28 or 35 again. He played well in his first game starting, but I still think that the Bengals win that one. I think Alabama's got a chance here. I really do. We saw Georgia be very mediocre against not a very good Kentucky team. I'm not saying that you can expect that multiple times this season, but if Alabama plays as well as they can win that game.
That's it for our first hour here on a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Chris Hilton coming into the LSU passing game this weekend. What does that give the Tigers? I talked about it at the top of the show. You can find that at YouTube. Hunt on LSU. Luke Johnson here talking about the Saints, their injuries, and how they match up with the Atlanta Falcons. You can find that at Hunt on Saints. Matchups to watch in LSU, South Alabama, and best win, worst loss in college football in the NFL. You can catch all of it on demand wherever you find your podcast, or, of course, on YouTube. Hour 2, going to be fun. Dennis Allen audio, Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers, will jump aboard. And I've got thoughts on LSU's basketball practice. Come back after Sports Center. It's the Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
It's an everyday thing here. We work horses in the mornings and we work on the property during the day, and without these John Deere tractors, it'd almost be impossible to keep up with the place. I've dealt with some of the other colors and stuff, and I never really got the response back that I get from John Deere, We really enjoy dealing with Sunshine. They're good people. They always check on us and make sure our equipment's running, and we love them. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Is SportsCenter. I'm Doug Brown. Week 4 in the NFL kicks off tonight with an NFC East battle. The Giants and Cowboys at the Meadowlands. Both teams are 1-2, and the Giants are 1-13 against Dallas over the last 7 years. Dan Orlovsky says the New York defense will be crucial tonight.
Dexter Lawrence is arguably the best defensive tackle in football, maybe him and Chris Jones in that conversation. This game, when the Cowboys are on offense, will come down to can they get CeeDee Lamb the ball early, and then how they handle Dexter Lawrence on the interior with a rookie at center.
Dan Orlovsky on Get Up. Texas Longhorns coach Steve Sarkisian says he'll decide tomorrow on a starting quarterback for Saturday's SEC game against Mississippi State. Quinn Ewers still recovering from an oblique strain. Arch Manning made his first career start last week. Former Milwaukee Bucks swingman Junior Bridgman now owns 10% of the team. After his playing career, most of it with the Bucks in the 1970s and 80s, Bridgman became an entrepreneur.
Why pay more for a great shave? Choose Barbasol, America's #1 brand of shaving cream. Barbasol's thick and rich lather gives you a close, comfortable shave for just half the price of gels. Barbasol.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boy, does it smell good.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
That's good.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
All right, let's do it. Hour 2, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Rouse's. Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, with us in 15 minutes. LSU and South Alabama coming at you. 6:30 kickoff? Is that right? I have not even checked. I know it's in the evening.
I think it's 6:30, yeah.
6:30, 6:45. We'll make sure to get that information to you as soon as we can. It's sometime at night, and it shouldn't be all that competitive. That's my hope. I believe Sunday will be competitive between the Saints and the Falcons, and the Saints have obviously been dealing with a lot of injuries this week. They have dominated the headlines. So I want to talk about some of that. Dennis Allen met with the media yesterday, and I've got updates on practice attendance today to kind of pair with that sound. So we'll start with Alvin Kamara, who's dealing with ribs and hip injuries. We talked to Luke in the last hour, and Luke said he thought that he may be just getting some rest and might play. This is what Dennis Allen had to say yesterday.
And Alvin? Yeah, he's just dealing with some ribs and really kind of a hip pointer.
So it sounds like he's a little banged up, but he did practice today. He returned to the practice field. We don't have the official injury report. That doesn't come out until a little bit later. But he was there at practice and was going through some workouts. It would stand to reason if he's out there running around, he's probably going to play on Sunday. I don't think that Alvin Kamara needs the extra reps on Thursday to get ready to go on Sunday. He pretty much knows how this game's played. So I feel pretty good at this point, since he returned to practice, that Alvin Kamara is going to give it a go, and that's a really good thing for the Saints. We'll see if they can get a running game going. I know based on last week they're going to try, because the backbone of this team through those 2 fantastic weeks was running the ball, and the reason that things didn't go well last week is because they couldn't, but it wasn't because they didn't try. They gave him the football 24 times on the ground and ran it 28 total. They will try to run the ball, and it sounds like Alvin Kamara is going to be ready to go. The problem is the offensive line is a little bit in disarray. So the question that was posed to Dennis Allen is, does the injury to Eric McCoy put more on Derek Carr's plate because you've got a new center?
Obviously Eric was instrumental in the communication with everything that we're doing up front, And so, anytime you lose a guy like that, is that smart, does such a great job of communicating, and is a good player to go along with that, it makes it tough. But we've got guys that we believe in that'll go in and step in and play well in his absence.
The question is, who is that guy? Are you going to move Patrick over? Or are you going to leave Patrick where he was, playing very well, and put someone like Shane Lemieux in at center? That's the question that we posed with Luke in the last segment, last hour. And I think it still remains a bit of a question mark. But Dennis Allen was asked directly, is it an option to put Shane Lemieux in there at center so that you don't disrupt two positions on the offensive line at once?
He worked center all of training camp. So, obviously Lucas Patrick has been playing, center for us. So we'll be ready with whatever we decide to do come game day.
It sounds like if Patrick is working at center, they feel most comfortable with him playing there and then subbing in someone at left guard, whether it's Oliudo or whoever the case may be. I don't know what the deal is with Landon Young. Perhaps he's an answer there as well. But I think Lemieux is an option probably as a backup based on that answer. I'm probably trying to read too much into that. But in any event, none of this is great. And it gives me a lot of pause when you look at this defensive front that the Falcons have, where Grady Jarrett is really disruptive. And Saints fans know David Onyemata and how good he can be as well. There are a lot of guys that have gone over to Atlanta from the Saints on the defensive side of the ball based on the coaching staff they had assembled. So there are a lot of options there. I don't know that any of them feels awesome to me. It feels like I'm going back a little bit to training camp with these huge questions with the offensive line. And it's not just that you lost an offensive lineman or perhaps two with Ruiz. It's that you lost your best offensive lineman in the middle of the line. That part is difficult to try to just brush aside. It just feels like it could be a massive issue. Now, how much of the issue was the offensive line injury? How much of the issue was the six-man defensive front that the Eagles deployed? We talked about that with Luke in the last hour. I don't know that every team's got the personnel up front that the Eagles do, but Dennis Allen was like, hey, do you expect more six-man fronts moving forward, especially this week against Atlanta?
It's a copycat league, right? Anytime we see something that gives us problems, offensively, defensively, in the kicking game, we can guarantee that at some point we're going to see something similar to what we saw. Now, whether Atlanta does it, I don't know. You'd have to ask them what their game plan would be, and if they let you know, pass it along if you don't mind. But, yeah, I would expect that at some point, we'll see a look like that. Part of the way Philly did it, those big guys inside make a huge difference, when they're playing like they did in our game.
A little humor from DA. You don't get that a lot. You don't get a lot of DA humor these days, even though the Saints are playing pretty well. But he deadpanned that one, and it was pretty good. But, yeah, I think the Saints will see some of that. Whether or not teams can be as effective as Philly was remains to be seen. I think there is some personnel on Atlanta's front that would give you pause and suggest that perhaps they could, but we'll just have to see. And we're talking about the running game. We're talking about all of this and whether or not the Saints can get that going. And one of the things that we haven't talked as much about, we've talked about the injury to McCoy, talked about the injury to Ruiz, talked about the injury to Kamara, we've talked about statistically that the Saints weren't able to run the ball very well against Philly, and we talked about all of that. What we haven't talked a ton about is Taysom Hill not being available. That matters because Taysom Hill gives you a numbers advantage in the box. When you run the ball traditionally, and I always use air quotes when I say that because traditional run is like the veer and the wing tee, and we don't do any of that anymore. But when you run it as we've been running it here of late, the defense doesn't have to account for the quarterback. Well, when you put Taysom back there, now the defense has to account for everybody that's behind the line of scrimmage. And that makes the numbers a little bit more difficult on the defense. And the Saints didn't have that. They tried on one snap on a big play on a third down late to go to Alvin Kamara in that Wildcat Taysom look, and he got stuffed. And Kamara's a good back, and I'm not suggesting that Taysom Hill would have piled over that guy and gotten 5 yards and picked up a first down, but I would rather have Taysom running it. And the question is whether or not he's going to be available. Dennis Allen was asked about Taysom.
I don't know if anybody has about Payson too, just since we're on the injury kit. Is there an update on him?
He practiced today, and I'm anticipating him being ready to go this weekend.
That's good news for New Orleans. That's an extra piece to this running game. That's an extra wrinkle that Atlanta's going to have to spend time on, and that's something that the Saints may be able to go to if that wide zone game's not working, if they're getting beat at the point of attack at times, and what they want to do week in and week out is not quite there with Kamara. That's a second pitch that you've got. That's a second option that you've got to try to get that ground game going. Because if the Saints can't run the ball and you let Atlanta or anybody pin their ears back against reserves on the interior, a rookie on the left tackle, and Trevor Penning on the right tackle with Derek Carr back there, I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. You've got to find a way to get it moving on the ground. It'll start with Kamara. If they need to go to Hill for a wrinkle here and there, they will. But it sounds like those two guys are going to be ready to go. Whether or not DeMario Davis plays, we'll see. Hamstrings are tricky. Whether or not Cesar Ruiz plays, we'll see. I don't know. But it sounds like Kamara and Taysom Hill are trending in the right direction. That's a good start for the Saints, who have got to run the ball coming up Sunday against the Atlanta Falcons. If you're looking for Saints content, you can always find it Hunt on Saints on YouTube. All of our Saints segment each day cut up into 10-minute digestible videos put up there on YouTube. You subscribe to the channel, they'll come right there to your homepage. You don't have to search it out or scroll through the whole show to find the Saints content. And you just find it right there on YouTube. Hunt on Saints. We appreciate y'all for subscribing to that channel and populating it the way you have. It's been great the last few weeks, as it should be. The Saints are playing some pretty good football, so we'll hope they can continue that coming up on Sunday. All right, Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers, is going to join us coming up next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Got to make LeBear's Baton Rouge your game day headquarters this season. They got the biggest screens around, and now you can bet and dine and wager at ESPN Bet in person at LeBear's Baton Rouge. It's a fantastic sports book. Tonight, Thursday Night Football, get on by and check it out. Also, as I tell you every day, jump in and compete with me on the app. You can download the Penn Play app, download the Cover 5 app as well. And if you put in the promo code LABRSEC24, you can compete with me and dozens of other players. We're almost up over 100 at this point on the SEC Pick'em contest. You pick 5 games against the number, and you compete with the entire group, and you can win season-long and weekly prizes. If you're not a member, that's okay. Get that Penn Play app today. Download the Cover 5 app today. LeBear's Baton Rouge, your live sports headquarters. Got to be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 800-589-9966 for help.
We're Rev Business, a local provider with nearly 90 years of experience. So when it comes to business in Louisiana, we know that personalized service is key. And we're here to go the extra mile with all fiber solutions that deliver what every business needs: reliability and quality. We're not just providers. We're the local team dedicated to helping you succeed. True partnerships are homegrown. Rev Business, internet, phone, managed services. Visit us at letsrev.biz.
It's no secret, the best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always...
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Thursday shows brought to you by Rouse's Markets. Get on by for your tailgate supplies, game watch supplies, or just your weekend groceries. I'm about to swing on by Rouse's after the show today to get everything we need for the weekend. Thinking about getting some burgers for the weekend. Throw those on the grill tomorrow afternoon. We'll see. Let's be honest, my wife's probably going to pick what we have. That's just probably what's going to happen. But we're going to be at Rouse's either way. We appreciate them for bringing you our Thursday shows each and every week. Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers, joins us on Thursdays. Does so now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Chris, how we doing?
Doing great, huh? Doing great.
How's Hester doing in the booth these days?
Doing great, man. Jacob does a great job. I mean, as you would expect. I mean, he certainly knows the game of football, and you know, it's tricky nowadays. I mean, it was odd to see UCLA huddle for a good portion of that game. Most teams don't, so it moves really, really fast. And Jacob's done a great job, so we're having a good time.
Was he able to pinpoint why LSU was really, really good in the first half, in the second half, and not as good in the first half?
Yeah, I think he said, you know, they aligned their run fits a little bit better, and they tackled a little bit better, and were in the right alignment a little bit better. So, you know, I don't know. I mean, like I said, he's forgotten more football than I'll ever know, so I just take his word for it.
It was interesting to see. I got to the post-game show, and I was looking at they give me the quarter and half cumulative deals, and I was looking at the first half going, man, this is bad. And then I looked at in the second half and went, this is really good. And Brian Kelly's been saying, we're close. And we talk to the players every Tuesday, and they're saying we're close. Do you get the sense that they're close to being significantly better on the defensive side?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I really do. And I know that sounds like the easy answer to take, but I mean, again, if you're able to put together 4 quarters in a game the way you put, you know, several of the 2 quarters that LSU has been able to do, especially this past weekend against UCLA. Yeah, I mean, I think that the defense certainly can go out there and win some football games and keep your offense in it and allow your offense, more importantly, Hunt, as well as the offense has played, to get some separation. Yeah. And, you know, when you're taking on an opponent that you should be winning against on paper, that, you know, that defense being able to get them off on third down, avoid the big play. And, you know, I thought Coach Kelly was spot on when he go back to the USC game. He talked about how the work is not done. We're celebrating with big stops on first down. We're celebrating when they're second and third and behind the chains. But you got one more play. You're not finished yet. And, you know, I think that's something they're still constantly talking about, because even in the game against UCLA, there were times where the Bruins were behind the chains, and in the first half, were able to come up with big third down plays. And again, all you need to do is replicate what you did on first and second down on third down, and you can hand the ball back to your offense.
And you mentioned that separation the offense can get, and if they do that and teams have to throw, I like my chances with LSU's pass rush the way it's played the last 2 weeks. What have you seen from Braden Swinson and Savion Jones over the last 2 games?
Yeah, those guys have been incredible. I mean, they're really becoming a force when it comes to, you know, defensive fronts in the SEC, and I think they will serve LSU well as we get deeper and take on more talented teams, especially teams that love to utilize the pass in their offense. And I've got a crazy observation, and Hunt, you can tear it apart if you like. What is head scratching to me is, you know, when teams are trying to stretch the field and when they occasionally try to go deep, I think our secondary's done a pretty good job of being in coverage step for step and having a chance to make a play on the ball. It's across the middle. It's on the intermediate routes where I think LSU's had the most trouble. I like it when a team drops back 5 or 8 steps and launches it down the field. For the most part, I think our secondary did a good job in coverage. It's I think more not individual play. It's more of what Coach Kelly's talked about. You do your job, and you have confidence that the other guy on your team will do their job. And to me, that's what I think has been missing, and I think that's why a lot of teams have had success across the middle of the field, not necessarily down the field, but in that 7 to 10, 12-yard radius.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it's not like you're seeing a lot of busts. It's just that you're seeing a lot more completions than you would like. And to me, the participation chart is telling a little bit of a story there. They are playing a lot of safeties. They are playing like 6 safeties in a game, and that to me says – not that anybody deserves to get benched, but we're waiting on the 2 guys that maybe step forward and show that they need to be the guys on the field more often. And I think they're still looking for it. And quite honestly, like, this is one of the last chances to kind of figure that out, because in 2 weeks, you better have some safeties back there, because they're going to be put to the test by that Ole Miss offense.
No, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I come into the year, my big question mark was the safety position, not necessarily the secondary as a whole, although they play a big part in that. Zy Alexander, when he's healthy and 100%, I got a lot of faith in him. I like P.J. Woodland in the time we've seen in him at the corner position. To me, once they're able to establish who are the guys that play after play are consistent at that safety position, I think this defense suddenly, right in front of our eyes, will make a major step forward. But I'm not sure we're there yet. Maybe we saw a little bit in the second half, and that will carry over to the first half right out of the gate against South Alabama. But we'll have to wait and see. I always thought the safety position was the one I was most concerned about, and so far that seems to be the case.
Let's go to the offensive side of the ball. I'll just let you talk about Garrett Nussmeier briefly. I spent a whole segment on the postgame on Saturday, because I think now we've kind of gotten desensitized to it with Jaden last year and Garrett early on. And I'm like, we need to kind of talk about this. He completed a bunch of his throws. He threw for 340 yards and 3 touchdowns with no picks again. We should probably talk about that.
No, I mean, what are you talking about? It's QBU here at LSU. I mean, were you not watching Monday, Hunt?
I was.
No. Actually, it is kind of amazing when you look down and you go, 352 yards passing today. Okay, well, Garrett did his job, but that's you don't want to take that for granted. And at the level he's completing his passes is really remarkable, and that he's not just kind of hey, this is my guy. Distributing it to 9 different receivers, utilizing Mason Taylor, who I've yet to see a team be able to really defend this season. And I know that he's racked up a ton of catches, but for me, it would be Mason Taylor until the other team finally figured out a way to keep him from getting the ball. But yeah, I think Nussmeier has been fantastic. And again, I go back to the one real sample size we had, which was the bowl on January 1st, and he showed a lot to me in that game. And then just listening to all that the coaches said in the spring, I felt like we would be in good hands, and we are. And I can still go back to what I told you last week. I think the performance against South Carolina is better, will make Garrett better moving forward, just because that was really a game where he had some pressures and had some hurries and obviously got sacked a couple of times, but still threw the ball extremely well, and then bounced back last week and just surgically tore apart UCLA in the passing game. So, yeah, Garrett Nussmeier for me has been stellar.
We may see Chris Hilton on Saturday. I anticipate that we will. What can he add to the offense?
Well, he can add, along with Kyle Parker, the ability to peel the top off of a defense. And, I've said it, and you've said it. I've heard all kinds of people talk about it. I mean, that's with this passing game, as efficient as it's been and as great as it's been, really. That's the one kind of piece that you didn't have. And even if you only take 2, 3, 4 shots and you hit on 1 or 2 of them, just the fact that threat is there. And I think we saw Parker do that on the big home run ball down the sideline Saturday. And I think now all of a sudden you add Chris Hilton to the mix. How close he is mentally and physically ready to go out there, we'll have to wait and see. I still don't expect to see him out there a ton Saturday. I'd love to see it. I just don't know if we will. But I just think he adds just another weapon that the defensive coordinators on the opposing teams will now have to consider and try to solve.
We'll see. I'm excited to watch Chris Hilton play. I think he's going to add a huge dimension to this offense with the speed that he's got for sure. The run game. What have been your observations over the last couple of weeks? We didn't see as much Caden Durham last week. I would expect to see a little bit more of him this week. Do you think they'll try to establish that against South Alabama?
I was impressed with the running backs, and I think we will. I'm not so sure that it's going to be one guy yet. I think they're still comfortable with the rotation of the four mainstays that we've seen at running back. But what I will say, at least from my humble observation, what I liked about the 102 yards against UCLA last week is that all of the running backs were at times were creating their own positive yards. And what I mean by that is they weren't going down on first contact, and they weren't, even if they didn't have these giant tunnels to run through, they were still able to get positive yards. And frankly, I think that was lacking in the first 3 games of the season outside of Durham's performance at South Carolina. So that's one of the things Coach Kelly and the entire staff has talked about. Hey, look, the offensive line is going to have to get better in their runs and creating holes. But running backs have a duty as well, and that is you can't go down on first contact. You got to hit the hole wherever how big it is. You got to get there and always be falling forward. And I think we saw a little more aggressive running, obviously from Durham, both from Jackson and also Williams. So I like it. I know it was 130 some yards against Carolina, 102 yards against UCLA. But I see it incrementally getting better, and hopefully you can see a step forward this week against South Alabama.
Coach Kelly was a little testy at the microphone. It was a weird read for me trying to figure out where that originated from. But you sensed in his tone that he feels like things are getting closer to where they need to be. You'll have the coaches show tonight at TJ Ribs at 7 o'clock. What have you read from Brian Kelly over the last couple of weeks as his teams continue to progress toward SEC play?
Well, I would never guess to speak, as to why, the frustration sets in. My guess is just listening to Coach, in his press conference and visiting with him on Thursday, Hunt, it really seems to me the team, coaches, and players all understand where the problems are and where the improvements have to be made. I've talked to a ton of coaches over the years, and sometimes this problem, okay, we got that fixed, and then, there's another one over here. Now we got to work on that. That doesn't seem to be the issue, which I think for all of us would be the most frustrating part, is that where the improvement has to come. You know that you're working on it every day in practice to improve that. The guys are putting in the work. He's never questioned that at all. And suddenly at times it's not relaying itself to the field. And that, to me, would be extremely frustrating. And again, I'm speaking for myself here, so I think that might have something to do with it. The positive side of that is not as if once you get one problem fixed, there's another hole in the dam that pops loose. They know what they need to fix, and if they can get that done and play consistently, he's right. This team really can be special, and this team can really go out and compete with anybody in the country. And that's what everybody's vying for with a 12-team playoff, is the ability to play at your very best at every snap, every drive, and every game. And when the same things are propping up, I think that becomes frustrating, not only for the coach and the coaching staff, but also the players. But I will give LSU a little credit. They did drop the penalties and mental mistakes last week. So that part they certainly did improve upon, and hopefully that will continue.
Y'all were letting Gordy up in the air conditioning on Saturday?
Yeah. We had to move around some stuff, obviously before the start of the season at last minute. And unfortunately, the superstar that Jacob Hesher is, he had prior commitments. Mm-hmm. So we'll have a short change, a slight change. We'll have Gordy up there in the air condition, which certainly he deserves after, running the sidelines last Saturday. And then Marlon Favorite, of course, your partner on game day and in the post game, will be on the sideline handling those duties. So we're just filling in for Jacob, again, prior commitment, and he couldn't get out of it. We certainly understand that. So we'll soldier on without him for 1 week.
We certainly will. We'll see you at TJ Rebs tonight for the coaches show, and then Saturday out on campus. Thanks, Chris.
You got it, Hunt. Thank you.
Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, with us every single Thursday here on the Hunt Palmer Show. All right, we'll take a time out when we come back. I got a chance to go into the PMAC yesterday for about an hour, watch LSU basketball work out. I'm not going to give you a final record projection after watching them run up and down the court for an hour, but I did have some takeaways, and I thought we could divert a little bit from football here for 10 minutes, and then we'll get back to it to close the show, and, of course, all day tomorrow. But a little basketball talk when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Safety is a big, big deal in the bathroom, certainly as folks age. If there's someone in your life that's aging but wants to stay home, maybe you can think about a bathroom renovation to help things in there and to create some less hazardous situations. One Bath and Closets can do it. Non-slip floors, they can do it. Guardrails, handrails around hazardous areas in the bathroom, they can do it. Walk-in tubs, got you covered. You can put benches in the shower as well. All of this to keep people safe that you love in their home. It's One Bath and Closets. Check them out online. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. You can see testimonials from their satisfied customers. You can see pictures of their great work. You can also find that on their Instagram page as well. And you can get that free consultation I'll tell you about each and every day. That doesn't cost you anything to sit down and have a conversation about what it's going to cost. It's One Bath and Closets. Check them out online, OneBathAndClosets.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Wall-to-wall TVs mean you'll see every touchdown in HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play with our DraftKings Sportsbook. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
.104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and Shell are excited to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Tiger Stadium with our Draw to 100 sweepstakes. We're giving you the opportunity to join in the VIP-style celebrations on October 12th for the Ole Miss game. Sign up today at 1045ESPN.com. We'll live stream the drawing on October 10th, and the 100th name drawn will win Stadium Club seats, sideline passes, and autographed memorabilia. It's the Draw to 100 sweepstakes presented by Shell, the Rhythm of Louisiana.
All right, I got a chance to get inside the PMAC yesterday and check out LSU's basketball team for the first time. They were just out there working out, first squad practice, and we got a chance to watch about an hour and 20 minutes of it. And I enjoyed it. I loved getting in there, hearing the shoes squeaking, rims rattling. And obviously, we didn't get a chance to watch them scrimmage much or anything, but we got a chance to watch them work out, run the floor, shoot a lot. Do some defensive drills, some rebounding, and just kind of get a look at some of the newcomers. And there are 6 newcomers on this team that LSU is going to potentially rely on pretty heavily in this 2024-2025 season. And so I'll give you kind of just some overarching thoughts on what I saw on the floor yesterday. I think LSU is going to be significantly better at guard this year. And you'll hear me say that a lot as we're leading up to the season. In McMahon's first year, the guard play was terrible. He brought his point guard over from Murray State. That did not work at all. And basically, it was KJ Williams just trying to do everything. And that's just no way to make a living. Last year, you thought they'd be a little bit better. They brought in some guys from around here. Jalen Cook came in and wasn't necessarily the impact guy that we thought he might be. Carlos Stewart played early and then never returned. But you did get some good play from Jordan Wright. Mike Williams was a nice surprise as kind of an unheralded recruit that they brought in. And they were better at the guard spot, especially Tyrell Ward kind of taking a step up as a shooter last year. But I think they're going to be really good this year at guard relative to last year and the year before that. I think they've got depth at point guard. You bring in Jordan Sears from Tennessee Martin, where he was a high-level shooter, shot the three really, really well. Got a chance to watch him a bunch yesterday. He's really quick. He's got hops, which you're going to need at 5'11". He's going to be an undersized guard. He's going to be an undersized point guard, but sometimes that's to your advantage. And Tremont Waters has had a pretty good run as an undersized point guard at LSU. In college, that can be okay. You can't really get away with it at the NBA level. You got to have a guy that's out there that's 6'3", 6'4", running things. But in college, you can, and I think he's going to be really, really good for them. You understand that Mike Williams really played well at the end of last year when he wasn't asked to run the entire show. Kind of Cook came back, and they put more on Wright's plate. Trey Hannibal played some point guard for you. But Mike Williams is a little bit off the ball. Now, he, I think, is a guy that they can count on for some depth at point guard. And then the freshman point guard, you're going to hear me sing his praises a lot. Curtis Givens, I think, is going to be a star at LSU. He shot it really well yesterday when I was watching the shooting drills. Again, there's no defense out there, a little different environment, but he's got a pure stroke. He's really under control all the time. If you watch his high school tape, he runs the show. He sees the floor. He's never out of control. He's sudden when he needs to be off the bounce. I think he's going to be really, really good. And the good news is they're not like for Williams last year when Cook was ineligible for a short time. They're not going to have to dump everything on his plate. You've got Sears, who's a senior, who can run the point, and then Williams can certainly do it. And they can bring Givens along as fast or as slow as they want. I think he's going to be great. And then you look at the two-guard spot where I think you're going to see a lot of Tyrell Ward, but I also think you're going to see, and he may play the three significantly as well, Cam Coleman, they bring in from Kansas State, who's going to be a really good defender, a really good athlete, and not going to hog a lot of shots. And then Jai Bailey is another two-guard as well, who they brought in, who was probably, as Matt McMahon told me, probably the best defender in the A-10 last year. And they got to get better on perimeter defense. Now, Jai Bailey is coming back from a big toe injury. He's not quite ready to go yet. He was riding the bike off to the side, but the proof's in the pudding with him. He's a really good defender. And those two guys can really play defense. And then you bring along Victorious Miller with them, who was a big four-star commitment that I saw yesterday. Really good-looking shooting stroke, good frame, not too skinny. And another guy who they're older players ahead of him. You've got Jai Bailey and Cam Coleman, who are fourth and fifth-year players. You've got Tyrell Ward, who's a third-year player. All those guys can play the two. And if Victorious Miller's ready to play, send him out there. If he's not, you've got older players ready to go. That's a six-man rotation at guard that I feel really, really comfortable with as far as shooting, as far as ball handling, as far as talent, as far as depth, and perimeter defense, which LSU did not have last year. So I like the way that those guys looked. I think LSU's got enough guards where they're going to have enough when it comes conference time. As far as the post players go, Jalen Reed's back, Derek Fountain's back, and Damian Collins is back. Those guys played some last year. Corey Chest is also back, but he was a redshirt last year. But you look at those guys along with Robert Miller III, who they brought in. I don't know how good that group is going to be. Maybe really good, maybe not as good. But I do know one thing about them. Reed is 6'10", Fountain is 6'10", Collins is 6'9", Chest is 6'8", and Miller is 6'10", and they can all run the floor. They all run really well. Now, that's common in basketball. The days of the back-to-the-basket post who's anchored down there on the block, pretty much over. It's okay if you have one, and those guys, if they're really, really good, can help you in some ways. But you got to be able to run, and all those guys can absolutely run. You know, if you've watched LSU basketball for 2 years, that Jalen Reed and Derek Fountain can run. Damian Collins was a 5-star recruit, went to Kentucky, McDonald's All-American. He's skinny, and he's been hurt, but he can run. And then Corey Chest, you could convince me Corey Chest is number 12 on the depth chart for this team. You could convince me that he's going to play 25 minutes and grab 8 rebounds a game because he's physically imposing. He's 6'8". He can really run. He can jump. He looks raw. I don't want him shooting 12-footers. I don't want him shooting threes. But he is a physical specimen. He can really run. And then Robert Miller is a freshman, 4-star recruit from the Houston area, top 50 player in the country coming out. And he can really run. So I like LSU's athleticism with the bigs. I know what Derek Fountain is. He is what he is. I pretty much know what Damian Collins is. He is what he is. Reed, if he takes as big a step as he did from year 1 to year 2 and year 2 to year 3, he can really be a force because he, in high school at 6'10", drove the basketball a lot. And then he came to college and tried to do that, and he got his pocket picked all the time. He just couldn't drive, couldn't finish. He got better at that last year. And he also developed a little bit of a perimeter shot, which forced guys to come out on him. He's still a little clunky going to the rim, or was last year. I want to see a little bit more development from him, but that's what it's for. That's why Matt McMahon is so excited about keeping Tyrell Ward and Jalen Reed and Derek Fountain and those guys around as long as he has, keeping Mike Williams around. Like, that's the development is what he really likes to do, and I think that those guys could be really good players for it. The other big is Noah Boyd, who is basically a back-to-the-basket guy. Like, he's 7 feet tall. He doesn't run as well as those groups. He's not a stiff. He doesn't play tuba in the band. But he doesn't run as well as those guys. I like the fact that LSU's got 4 or 5 bigs that can really, really run. And the health of the team is good. You've only got 2 issues of the 12 scholarship guys. Boyd is coming off of an ACL injury, and they're taking it a little bit slower, but he was going through kind of everything yesterday, which is good. And then you got Jai Bailey, who's coming back from a big toe injury. He will be practicing within the week, which is really, really good news for LSU. So they're very healthy. I think they've got as much talent. They've got more talent than they've had at any point in the McMahon era. If this team was playing in the 2011, 2012, 2013 SEC, I would say that's an NCAA tournament team. Like, I think this team could be as good as the Jordan Mickey, Jarrell Wright, Tim Quarterman teams that Johnny Jones put out there. Jarrell Martin. What did I say, Jarrell Wright?
Yep.
Jarrell Martin. Either way. Grizzlies, shout out. This team is that good. That team made the tournament. They got beat on a buzzer beater. That team played in a bad SEC. This team's playing in a great SEC. So the margins are going to be so thin for this team. You're going to play a lot of games that are decided for by 5 or less points, and it's black and white once that's decided. You don't get credit for going on the road to Arkansas or on the road to Florida and playing them tough. Like, you have to win.
You're right, but I do think, though, that we'll see some SEC teams get in the tournament that maybe are only a game or 2 above 500.
You've seen multiple SEC teams the last 2 years
under
get in with under 500
So,
records.
yeah, so it's very doable.
The conference has garnered respect. It's not to the baseball and softball side of things, but they've garnered enough respect to where if you lose some games in conference, you're not going to be nailed to the cross over it. But I think this team has got some real ability. They've got size. They've got athleticism. I think they're going to shoot it really well. I think Sears shoots it well. I know Sears shot it well last year. I know Tyrell Ward shoots it well. And I think that they have some other guards that are going to shoot it pretty well as well. I think Mike Williams showed that last year. And I'm not ready to rule Cam Coleman out as a guy that can shoot the ball. Jai Bailey's not going to shoot. He's going to play defense, and he's going to shoot layups. That's all. He shot like 58% as a 2-guard last year at Richmond. That's a bunch of layups. But those guys can shoot, and then the bigs are athletic. And I do think they're going to be able to protect the rim, which is a big problem last year. And I do think they're going to be able to run, and I think they're going to be able to score and defend on the perimeter a lot better. So this is sunshine season for basketball. We talk about it in August for football. This is sunshine season for basketball for sure. And I'm not even here to tell you that this is a top half of the SEC team. I think it definitely could be. I'm not here to tell you that it is. But this is the best team McMahon's put out there. And I think everyone's on the same page to go, okay, like, you had the first year as a complete freebie. Last year, there were signs of improvement. You made the NIT, and you won some games that maybe LSU fans didn't expect you to win. Now you're on a level playing field with everybody. Go get them. And I was excited that he let us in to watch some practice yesterday. And I'm hopeful that LSU can have a better basketball team this year and make January and February a little bit more fun than sometimes it is in Baton Rouge. We know once February cranks up and the baseball team starts playing, y'all are all fired up about it. You know that I am too. But basketball can be really fun around here, and I'm hopeful that this team gives us a little bit of that. So they'll crank things up the first week of November prior to the Alabama game. ULM will come to town on that Wednesday. So we won't talk basketball for a little bit, but we may have Matt McMahon on here in a couple of weeks to maybe next week during the bye week, may have Coach McMahon on since there's not a football game to preview. But I'm excited about a little bit of LSU hoops. I've got a preview. I've got a practice report up on LouisianaSports.net right now on our LSU sports page if you want to check that out. One segment to go. We'll take a timeout, come back with it. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Speaking of LouisianaSports.net, if you log on to LouisianaSports.net next week, you will see Audio Video Security Solutions. They're going to do a little advertising with us there on the sides. We appreciate Mitchell Fisher and the team over at Audio Video Security Solutions, and we appreciate you for patronizing them. They're a fantastic local company that can help you out with your audio, help you out with your video, help you out with your security. Nothing is more important than the security of your home, and Alyssa and I feel great at our home because folks at Audio Video Security Solutions have installed our security system. All of our windows, all of our doors have sensors on them. We've got cameras on the front door and the back door. We can disarm and arm the alarm at all times. Had somebody come into the house earlier today to drop something off. I was able to disarm the alarm, and then I was able to rearm it when they left. All remotely, and I can take a look at those cameras 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I can pause. I can rewind. All that is possible because of the folks at Audio Video Security Solutions. If you don't have anything like that and you're looking for a new security system that can do all of those things, Audio Video Security Solutions should be your only call. This is Mitchell's cell phone number, 225-439-7920, 225-439-7920. It's Audio Video Security Solutions. Check them out online, avssla.com.
There's nothing chill about a hot, sweaty line. Unless you add Mountain Cold Refreshment. Coors Light. Choose chill.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
All right, closing up shop here. Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show presented by Rouse's. Sam Burns, Patty Ice, Patrick Cantlay leading their President's Cup match up there at Royal Montreal in Canada. Be keeping tabs on that the rest of the afternoon. I'm sure Matt will not. He's going to talk a lot of football, so you can check him out on After the Review coming up next. It's time to play some Take It or Leave It, Beck.
All righty, first one here. USC defensive tackle Bear Alexander, who had expressed displeasure with his playing time, is taking a redshirt season in 2024. Take it or leave it.
Look, I'll take it for him if he wants the red shirt. That's fine. You're talking about a guy who, according to Shea Dixon, has gone to 4 high schools and 3 colleges in 6 or 7 years. It's I'm not sure what he's looking for. I realize he got a big NIL deal, a huge NIL deal to go to USC, and that's awesome for him. But at a certain point, you just got to play a little bit better. And if he was playing awesome, I think everyone would realize that, and he'd play some. So I'm not anti a guy taking a redshirt year to develop, but if he's going to go try it another place, it's like at a certain point, I mean, you can find a mirror and kind of check it out.
Yeah, usually when you play really well in practice or you practice well, you usually get to play.
Yeah.
So,
and if you play really well, you'll probably get bigger NIL deals.
Yeah. So maybe a little correlation there. But moving on to the next one, Sacramento State, who are currently an FCS team, announced that they've secured millions in funding for a new football stadium, part of a public pursuit of the Pac-12, trying to get a membership with the Pac-12. Sac State and the Pac-12. Take it or leave it.
Take it. Sounds awesome. Take whoever you want. You call it the Pac-12, and then we're supposed to hand you playoff invites?
I think I saw Texas State
awesome.
Thinking about
Perfect.
it as well.
They sound great. You should also get the University of Phoenix Online College in there.
Oh,
put
yeah.
them in the Pac-12.
I don't think they have a football team, though.
Oh, well, they can make one, and they'll just be in the Pac-12. Put them in the playoff. Be great.
That's true.
No one cares. And they've secured millions. It better be a lot of millions. If it's 5 million, then that's not going to build you a very good football stadium.
No, probably not.
There are a lot of football stadiums in Texas that house high school games every Friday that are worth millions.
Yes, there are. Next one here, Barstool Sports founder Dave Portnoy pledged up to $3 million yearly to get Michigan an elite quarterback out of the transfer portal. Take it or leave it.
Take it. That's what it takes. That's what you got to do. And if you've got disposable income of that degree and you want to go buy a quarterback, that's fantastic. I'm always curious when I see LSU popping up and doing all the things that they're doing, just who's cutting these massive checks. And I appreciate them for doing that very, very much. But it feels like you got to have a lot of money to be paying $3 million a year for a quarterback. And I'm glad LSU has some folks that are doing some of that, but I just don't know who they are. So keep it up, guys. Thanks.
All right, moving on. Zion Williamson did an interview with Pelicans reporter Will Guillory and said, quote, "I'm out for straight vengeance. Zion will be an MVP contender. Take it or leave it."
I'll leave that. I'd just like him to play 76 games.
That'd be good, yeah.
That'd be excellent.
If he plays 76 games, maybe he is an MVP contender. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe so. You never know. He just hasn't done that a lot. I mean, I'll go to you, Jordan. Is he going to be out for straight vengeance? Is he going to be the MVP of the league this year?
I have nothing to say about Zion at this moment. We
No.
just gotta
Oh,
wait.
come
We
on.
just gotta
You got a
wait and
Pelicans
see.
podcast. You better say something.
We just have to wait and see. I'm not biting my tongue no more. We just gotta wait and see. We just
Tell
gotta wait.
everybody where they can find your Pelican stuff.
You can watch the Pelican Scoop on the 1045 page. New episode dropping today, so be on the lookout.
We like that. Maybe he'll talk about Zion then. He's not going to do it on the Hunt
I
Palmer
actually
show.
talk about Zion today. That's why I didn't want to say
There you go. All right. He didn't. So he's
I
just okay. He's just teasing us. Okay.
That's good. That's fine.
All right. Next
Protect
one.
your own intellectual property. I got you.
All right, last one here. Olympic gold medalist gymnast Hesley Rivera announced on Instagram she's committed to LSU. Tigers are going back-to-back. Take it or leave it.
Well, she's not on this team, is she?
She'll be on the. I think she'll be on this
On the gym team this spring?
I'm not sure though, but maybe not.
Either way.
Either way,
we'll take
that's
it,
good.
I like Jay Clark. He's the man. I would say, sometimes recruiting stars can be a bit misleading.
Yeah.
You can be misses there.
Yeah.
If you won the gold medal in the Olympics,
That's
I think
probably
we
pretty
can feel
good.
pretty good about your abilities as a gymnast.
Yeah, especially considering it's literally all based off scoring, and she's obviously done well enough to be on the Olympic team. So
I think that makes good sense. I think Hesley's got a pretty good future in Baton Rouge. The only real sport where you can pick Olympic gold medalists is gymnastics. Maybe swimming and diving.
Probably not, but usually those guys are professional. But
okay, well, LSU had like a lot of guys swimming and diving and women.
That's true.
I don't think anyone won the gold though, so that's pretty good for Hesley. So shout out. Hope you enjoy class at Lockett Hall after you won the gold medal.
That's real nice.
That's super awesome. Get your pick. Grab a copy of the Reveille.
Make sure you have some boots if it rains for a long time.
I would know. Probably didn't go to class. My pen just fell off again. So
that's impressive.
That's it for a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We opened things up today talking about Chris Hilton and the impact he can have on LSU's passing game. I think it could be significant, not just in what he can do, but what he could open up for everybody. He brings another piece of diversity. I talked about it. You can check it out at Hunt on LSU on YouTube. Luke Johnson joined us to talk about the Saints injuries at 1:15. You can find that on YouTube at Hunt on Saints. Gave you some matchups to watch between LSU and South Alabama. Best win and worst loss on the college football and NFL boards. That finished up hour number one. Dennis Allen talked some injuries and kind of what they want to do on the offensive line at the top of hour number two. Voice of the Tigers, Chris Blair is with us talking Tigers. You can catch him this evening at 7 o'clock on the Coaches Show. Brian Kelly Show from TJ Ribs tonight. And I gave you some basketball thoughts at 2:30 on LSU's first basketball practice yesterday inside the PMAC. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound, you can always find us as well as on YouTube. That's going to do it here for us on a Thursday. Tomorrow, got Preston Guy talking about the Tigers. We got the Atlanta Journal-Constitution's Falcons beat writer talking Falcons Saints. We'll have my picks against the spread for SEC games. All that's coming at you. Have a wonderful and safe Thursday.